providing the necessary knowledge and the technical inputs in all their activities, which should be going a long way as far as the capacity building in this country is concerned. We are quite sure that this is the first step towards making Kenya get its rightful place in the global economy. And through this MOU, we will be working very closely with them and ensuring that the financial system in Kenya gets an orderly growth and ensures that all the facets of the growth of the financial system, they are taken care of. So we are proud of having taken that first step. And also, I'm thankful to all the organizers of this summit, which has given us this opportunity to be over here, to be a part of this allied group, and ensure that all the activities that we'll be taking would be ensuring and cementing the strong relationship between India and Africa. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Wow, isn't that exciting? Yes. Can I have another round of applause? Now, we just had some excellent insights into sustainable finance that creates value for all stakeholders. We heard how impact and research can work together, and this discussion goes perfectly on this morning's journey, like I said, from policy framework to capital mechanisms. Now, some people do unique things. The next gentleman is the chairman of the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, KEPSA. Under his guidance, KEPSA has been instrumental in creating the business-friendly environment that enables the partnerships we're exploring here, like you just heard. Without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Mr. Jaswinder, call him Bedi, chairman of KEPSA. You got 10 minutes.
Thank you very much for that great introduction. And I'm very happy and honored to be here this morning. I was called yesterday, and the leader said to me, you must come to this Kenya India Africa Investment Forum. And I said, who is the audience? And when he gave me the list of the audience, I said, yes, I will. And I'm grateful that I'm here this morning. And I think it's an opportune time for all of us to be one group at this very critical point in our world's or on this planet's history as we see it today. I spoke on Monday at the WTO in Geneva, and I was telling them, over the last 30, 40 years, we've all been seeing this mantra about globalization. And yes, free trade and fair trade and what have you. And let's ask ourselves the honest, simple question. There were 160 delegates in the room, and I said, has globalization peaked? And maybe it's time that we relook at the way the World Trade Organization is working and how the multilateral trading system is working. And is it relevant in today's world, or has one man changed it totally? We have a new World Trade Order. I think all of you know, India's negotiation is ongoing. By the 1st of August 2025, we'll know whether India has gone like 26% tariff to the US, or lower, or higher rates go. Yesterday, President Trump said India is negotiating well, we'll have a good agreement. Now, what is good in his mind, we know. But what's good for us, we also know. So we are at that critical point in our history that we don't know how trade is going to get shaped. We definitely know, for one thing, that the world moved 50 years ago from 1945 onwards to the Bretton Woods, to the Uruguay round, to the WTO, from a nationalization agenda to a regionalization agenda to a globalization agenda. And if we are reversing all that today in 2025, from globalization to regionalization to localization, how is the world going to look? How is your business going to be? What is your business going to be? Is it still going to be relevant in tomorrow's world? Because if one country is 28% of the world's GDP, $28 trillion, that's the US, and China is 18 trillion, that's another 18% of the world GDP. Two countries are so dominant that 46% of the world trade is controlled by two countries. India is 4 trillion, 4% of world trade. Africa, our trade is 3.5 trillion, our combined GDP is all 55 countries, so we are about 3.5% of world trade. And we are 55 countries, so we are inconsequential in the grand scheme of things. And when you're inconsequential, then when you have a bullfight between the world's two biggest economies, the grass definitely gets injured, and we are at that level, and especially for Africa, where most of our negotiations and our trade has been done on a multilateral basis through the African Union. As you all know, we have duty-free market access to practically everywhere in the world except for India and China, where we are now. China has just announced in the Africa meeting, the FOCAC meeting that they had a month ago, that all African countries will be given duty-free market access to China. Yes, we need to work on India. India is giving duty-free market access to the least developed countries of Africa and LDC countries, where Kenya is not featuring in that country because we're a developing country and we have huge opportunity, but the trade imbalance is so large that I don't know what we should do. The two countries that are trading with Africa and Kenya, and I call them Jindia, that's China and India, there's 45% of our trade. And that is a true number. China exports $4.5 billion to Kenya, India exports $3 billion to Kenya. Our total imports are $17 billion. Our total exports are about $7 billion. So the trade balance in goods is about $10 billion. And that's what we need to reverse. And I was looking at the numbers of our youth. The maiden age in India is 29 years. The maiden age in Kenya is 19 years. So if you look at the world, and you look at the continent, and if you look at Africa, we're going to have the world's biggest economic trading bloc. And that economic trading bloc is a reality. It's been signed by all 55 countries, and that is 1.4 billion people on the continent. And that landmass of this continent is 30 square kilometers, 30 billion square kilometers, as compared to India, which is 3.2 billion square kilometers. So our landmass is almost 10 times bigger. Our population as a continent is same as India. And as we dismantle our boundaries, you'll start seeing that Africa is going to be that crucial country that everybody wants to have a slice of. We all know by today's population, the continent's population, 17% of world population is African. In the next 25 years, 1 in 4 people on this planet is going to be African. And that's a massive demographic shift on how the world will look at Africa and how Africa will look at its world. For sure, the US is going to have created a different dispensation of trade in the next 4 years, and we hope it's not too far out. We as Kenya, we've been negotiating, and we've been at the back burner. We wanted to see how the rest of the world negotiates, and I think we've got up to 1st of August to negotiate a trade agreement with the US. In the next 72 days, our current trade agreement will expire with the United States, which is duty-free, quota-free market access, and we are hoping that there is a bill in the US Congress that will take that to 2041. And if it doesn't, then we'll have to see what is good for us. But one thing is for sure, the trade imbalance is not in our favor, it's in the favor of the US. And at the moment we're on a 0 plus 10% tariff. I think the rest of the world is on MFN plus, and the numbers are out there in the open. So the world is going to change forever. And I know I have 10 minutes. I'd rather leave this session open for Q&A as opposed to making speeches. And I think I'm done with my time. Thank you very much.
Can I have another round of applause for him? You can tell the experts. I said 10 minutes, he did 9 minutes and 52 seconds, giving me 8 seconds back. Thank you very much, Jazz. Now, you've heard from Jazz about a powerful demonstration of how private sector, leadership shapes enabling environments. Your insights into KEPSA's advocacy work, show exactly how collaboration between government and private sector creates business-friendly environments. Now, let's see how this translates into concrete investment promotion and facilitation. Honorable Abubakar Hassan Abubakar, Principal Secretary for the State Department for Investment Promotion, represents Kenya's commitment to turning policy into practice and partnerships into prosperity. As Principal Secretary for Investment Promotion, he sits at the nexus where yesterday's opportunities become today's investment. His department is responsible for creating the investment climate that enables the partnerships we've been exploring to generate real economic value. Yesterday, we heard about the need for enabling policies and regulatory frameworks. Today, Honorable Abubakar is going to show us how Kenya is implementing exactly these frameworks to attract and facilitate the cross-regional investments that are going to transform both economies. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, may I call to the stage the Honorable Principal Secretary for the State Department for Investment Promotion, Honorable Abubakar Hassan Abubakar. Can I have a round of applause, please?
All right, thank you very much. Distinguished representatives of the India-Africa Business Network, entrepreneurs, industry leaders, honorable guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning, or is it good afternoon? All right, so it's a great honor and privilege to address you on this 5th edition of the India-Africa Entrepreneurship and Investment Summit. But first, I would like to welcome you to Kenya. I'm told there are around 150 visitors from all over Africa and India in particular. So I'd like to welcome all the delegates to Kenya. I'm sure that you came here without a visa, right? Because Kenya has been scientifically proved as the home of human origin. This is where humanity began, and that's why the president said if someone is coming home, there is no need for a visa. But also, welcome to Kenya because it's the international environmental capital. This is where the UN headquarters on climate issues is based. And welcome also to Nairobi, where it's the only city in the world with a national park. So we ensure that after this you want to come? Yes. So ensure if you have done this, you visit our national park. But most importantly, I want to welcome you to a country which is a hotbed of investor-ready opportunities. But most importantly, it is a startup hub. It's a startup hub in Africa. For the last 2 years, continuously in a row, Africa Big Deals and Africa Investment Report has rated Kenya #1 in terms of startup funding for 2 years in a row, because we have a thriving startup ecosystem. We have the East Africa Venture Capitalists Association. We have a startup bill which is about to be accepted by the president any time. We have put a lot of fiscal incentives for startups in our Finance Act of 2023 and 2025. So, with all that, I'd like now to commend this platform or this network for putting this platform for engagement towards shared economic prosperity, inclusivity, and sustainable economic growth. So, since this platform is about Africa, it's India-Africa Network, I'd like to say something small about Africa. We all know that Africa is growing at a faster rate because of its competitive advantages that the chairman Bedi has talked about, from the cultivated arable land to youthful workforce to a lot of abundance of minerals and renewables. An international capital is scouting for opportunities in Africa, of course pushed by those the push factors of inclusivity, sustainable imperative, geopolitical tension, and the digital transformation. We, as a country, we are positioning ourselves to be a gateway to the rest of Africa. We know currently the FDI stock from India in all Africa is around $5.4 billion, and we are among the fifth in Africa. I know number one is Mauritius, we are fifth. So far, Indian stock is around $265 million US. So our goal is to make sure we are taking that to number one, and we believe this is the beginning of the journey for Indian investors to set up in Kenya. And our message is very simple, and it has three components. That Kenya is open for business, it's not closed, or it's not partly open, it is completely open. Our economy is open, we are ready for business, and we are safe for business. And let me repeat, we are safe for business. Whatever you are seeing with our youth is basically an aggressive public participation, which we are working on it, we're managing it, and we're trying to make it more impactful. Ladies and gentlemen, our diplomatic focus is on economic and commercial diplomacy, with a focus on investment and trade. And this has been strengthened by our President's visit to India in 2023, opening new ways to broaden and deepen our investment and trade relationship. I don't want to talk much about Kenya and why you should invest in Kenya, because the CEO of Kenya Investment Authority, who is our Chief Investment Promotion Officer, will be here to talk about it. But let me just give you an overview of, and you can sum it up for at least as 10 reasons why you should invest in Kenya. One is from its geostrategic location. We are located at the heart of Africa, easily accessible from India, and all the traditional trade routes are from Kenya, to our demographic dividend, where we have a very youthful population, which is very educated, skilled, very ethical, and affordable for business, but more importantly, they are very good looking. But that's not enough. We are blessed with a robust infrastructure as a gateway for your goods once are produced in Kenya. In addition to that, we have three other reasons. One is the political stability. Under President Ruto, we now have a broad-based government to support any economic environment, and we have a very stable economy. We are the largest economy in East and Central Africa, growing at an average rate of 5%, supported by stable macroeconomic indicators, a low inflation regime, which is a good indicator for investment. Those are the parameters that investors looked at. Stable exchange rate, stable foreign health exchange results, to the extent, and our economy is very diversified. It's not concentrated in one area, from agriculture to manufacturing and service sector, to an extent that we have moved from position 8 in Africa to number 6 in Africa. We are now the 6th largest economy in Africa. And the sixth reason is about the predictability and stability of our regulatory environment. I know many investors will want to focus on what is our tax law or tax regulation stability and predictability. Now we have a tax law which provides that any comprehensive review of the tax rate will be done after every 3 to 5 years, and we have started by demonstrating in our Finance Act of 2025, we have not introduced no more taxes. We are going to provide that stability in line with our new tax policy. In addition to that, the other three important things which investors look at is on the market access, the efficiency of producing in Kenya, and of course, the abundance of our resources. In terms of our market access, if you produce in Kenya, you do not only have the market access for Kenya, but East Africa, Africa, USA, UAE, we have just signed an economic partnership agreement with UK, and lastly, Just the other day we have signed an economic partnership agreement with EU. So you build all that market access, and for efficiency of producing competitively to access this market, we have a robust special economic zone program and extra processing zone program that Kenya Investment Authority will tell you about. But most importantly, we have abundance of the raw materials to be exploited and to be value added. And the last point is there are a lot of opportunities in our bottom-up economic transformation agenda, which is based on 5 pillars. But 3 pillars are good for you, which are in our agricultural modernization. We want to modernize our agricultural sector by mechanizing it, chemicalizing it, and put a lot of agri-tech in it. The second one is on health. A lot of Kenyans go to India. I'm told the market is around 10 billion Kenyan shilling of worth of people who go to India for medical checkups. But in our budget, a fifth of our budget is spent on pharmaceutical and medical device. And out of that, 70% of it is imported. So that is a great opportunity for the Indian investors to set up in Kenya. And all the pharmaceutical that is imported, is imported from India. So it's a good opportunity. You have already tested the market. We can see we are accepting your product to it. What we want is for you to import substitute. But for you to access this opportunity, you need a mechanism. So we now in Kenya have a Kenya-India Business Council, which has a collaborative agreement with the Kenya Investment Authority, with the Embassy of India, to help you access this opportunity with ease. As I conclude, I once again extend my heartfelt gratitude to the India-Africa Business Network for organizing this summit. I wish you fruitful deliberation and look forward into the strategic partnership, deals and joint ventures that will emerge from this year's forum. But most importantly to me, in such forums, we should have a goal, and the goal is to convert the conversation we have into actual conversions. You will get a lot of contacts out of this. We need to work on converting those contacts to actual contracts. You will get a lot of leads out of this platform. Our job is to convert those leads to actual investment deals, and all the inquiries you make to actual investment transactions. Lastly, I'm told by my team that we are planning an investment roadshow in October in India, and we are to advance our investment promotion agenda, and we are looking forward to see you in India again. And lastly now, but not least, I invite you to the Kenya International Investment Conference that will be held in Nairobi in March 2026, and we welcome you back to Kenya again. Thank you very much. You have me to sit.
Please grab a seat. You're not getting away that free. Jazz, please come join us. Right. We've heard from both the private and public sector on how they do cross-regional. Are there, before I ask my own, are there any questions from the audience? Wow. Stunning silence. Everyone's waiting for lunch. No, they're not. Okay. So, in the absence of that, you've got a speaker. Now, comparatively speaking, you guys have been relatively successful in putting this structure in place. Now, in the audience, we've got both people from other African countries and from India. I'm going to put the question first to you. So, why do you think you've been successful? From a context of sharing with others that may want to tread that path. And I'm going to come to your counterpart with exactly the same question. Over to you, sir.
I think you can be successful because you cannot be successful if there is no effective leadership. So in my view, we are successful because we have a captain who is our president, who is very visionary and focused in whatever he's doing. And his focus in, as I said in my speech, his diplomatic focus out there is on economic and commercial diplomacy. So we are successful because of effective leadership and focused leadership, and which is focusing on not only attracting investment into Kenya, but enabling by incentivizing and de-risking such investment. But most importantly, facilitating those investments to set up in Kenya. From the pre-establishment to during establishment to post-establishment.
Thank you very much for that, sir.
Chad.
Thank you. I think my PS has said it all, but the truth of the matter is that we in Kenya and with His Excellency the President, you must have heard when he spoke in Paris, he talked about that we need to start looking at the global architecture of the financial world at this point in time. And I give you numbers to substantiate what I'm trying to say. You know, by and large, the FDIs that make their way into the continent of Africa and into Kenya, I don't think there's a single case that investment has gone wrong. And if you look at the default rate of FDIs into Russia, into India, into Asia, there's a big percentage of default that has happened over the last 2 to 3 decades. So that tells you that obviously the African investment, the Kenyan investment is much safer as opposed to those emerging economies where investment has gone south. But the truth of the matter is that the perception out there is that all investments into Africa are going to go south, and that is already priced into our financial ability to source finance cheaply. As we speak today, a lot of investment in the country and in the continent is actually at double-digit interest rate, whereas the rest of the world is on single-digit interest rate. So there's a perception of risk as opposed to reality, and I think that's the paradigm our president was trying to change, that we need to start thinking differently if we want this continent to grow. And let's be honest, this is a young continent. It's got a population of 1.4 billion, and not so much in the distance, it's going to be 2.5 billion out of a 10 billion world population. So whether you like it or not, we were with the president in May in the US last year. We went for a state visit to America, and we visited the Coca-Cola factory. Maybe somebody from Coca-Cola is here. And Coca-Cola announced that yeah, so Coca-Cola announced an investment of $175 million into Kenya. And I looked at that investment and I had a cheeky smile, and the boss asked me, why are you smiling? I said, because, you know, if we drink one Coca-Cola every day in the continent of Africa, that's 1.4 billion bottles. So whether they like it or not, by 2025, if we continue drinking one Coca-Cola a day, that means our per capita income doesn't go up, and we just afford one bottle a day, that consumption is going to go up from 1.5 billion bottles to 2.5 billion bottles in the next 25 years. So even if we don't grow, the consumption is going to grow by the same per capita consumption of one bottle a day by every African every day. So you can imagine, whether you like it or not, you need to be part of the story. Because the story, the demographic shift that's going to happen on this continent is going to be the biggest ever noticed in the history of this planet. I was in Japan last week, and the numbers that were given to me when we went for the Kenya Expo week in Japan, Japan's population is 120 million. And in 2050, Japan's population is going to become 80 million. 40 million Japanese are going to leave this planet because they have an aging population. And on the flip side, we are going to add 1 billion people on the continent. So it's a numbers game, whichever way you look at it. India grew because of their numbers. China grew because of their numbers. And Africa will grow because of their numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for that. Now, my next question is slightly more personal. I look at gentlemen in the audience, you have the founders of the Indian Angel Network here. And it's amazing what's happened with local investment attracting international funding. Here in Kenya, especially in Nairobi, we've got the Nairobi Business Angels. We've got the Victoria Business Angels. Trying to plug the gap between grants and venture capital. And in so doing, attract international funding. What I would like to know, okay, personally, other countries are implementing startup packs that actually recognize angel investors and as local investors, and therefore give them advantages like tax discounts and other things. Where is Kenya on that road? And how do you see that panning out, given what we've just heard?
I think so fast, I want to say that Kenya is a startup hub in terms of funding, because in 2 years in a row, we've been able to manage to get the biggest funding for startups, especially in the tech. And two is, as the president is trying to build an ecosystem for that. And currently we have a startup bill which has already passed parliament. It's about to be assented by
Have a round of applause for that, please.
that bill provides for the incentives you're talking about and the fund to support startups. But in the meantime, we have provided a lot of fiscal incentives in our finance bill of 2023 and 2025 to start startups in Kenya.
Thank you. Now, Jazz, we just talked about startups, and we know the backbone of any economy are SMEs. So the SMEs, startups, or corporates, what are your thoughts on that evolution, please?
Thank you. Great question. As KEPSA and also as the government of Kenya, the SME is a very important part of our business. In fact, I think the definition of SME in the rest of the world is probably our large corporates in Kenya, if you really look at it that way. But the SMEs that are driving business in this country are as high as 70% to the economy. What are we trying to do? How are we trying to handhold them? How are we trying to engage them for them to become large corporates? We're trying to create industrial linkages at KEPSA and also at the Kenya Association of Manufacturers so that we can handhold the small micro enterprise and bring them to the fore. We've seen a lot of the SMEs have also been informal businesses, and we're trying to see how can we formalize that informal business. Right now in the finance bill, we have 1.5% turnover tax for the SMEs. We're making it simple and easy for them. There's a disconnect between at what point do they graduate into becoming VAT registered companies, and that number at the moment is 6 million shillings revenue. We're trying to merge the turnover tax number, which is at a higher level as opposed to the VAT registration number, and bring it at a level so that we handhold these people. That number is so small, bring them into the formal economy, because the economy of Kenya and the economy of Africa is largely informal because of these SMEs. But they need to be handled, and the private sector is doing that in conjunction with government, putting the right policy framework in place so that we can bring these guys from the informal business to formal business.
Thank you very much for that. So, any final departing shots?
The point is you need to understand the Kenyan philosophy towards investors. We are saying that our philosophy, we are investor-centric. We are not investor-centric. So we want to understand your concerns so that we can be able to address them and all the issues so that you can be able to build your investor confidence, your trust and optimism in our country. But lastly, is to tell you again that as a country we are open for business, we are ready for business, we are safe for business, and we mean business.
On that note,
Thank you. Parting shot for me would be that we are a customs union. We are 8 countries in the customs union today. There is East African Customs Union. That is 310 million people. That is Kenya. Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, Burundi, DRC, Somalia. That customs union is also growing, and we are probably the only ones in the continent who can connect Indian Ocean to Atlantic Ocean with the DRC as our newest number. And as the combined GDP of the 310 million people is $330 billion. And of course, these are all regional economic blocks which we are trying to expand. KEPSA is 26 countries, which is a common market of East and Southern Africa. And of course, SADC. So the TFTA is a reality.
To cut you off.
And the AFCTA is also going to be a reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, can I have a round of applause?